Well, looking toward the meeting itself, we want to welcome our speaker today. It's Clarissa Ferraris. She's the from which she's a Wichita Postcard Club member, a longtime member, and also is very active and is an officer of the Capital Beltway Postcard Club in Maryland. This is close to, I think, Washington, D.C. And they recently participated in a stamp show there and had post crossing and anyway, it was a nice bringing different hobbies and different interests together. It worked out really well, I think. But Clarissa's here today to talk about, I think she's maybe changed her title a little bit, but in my notes, I have it here as the whole story of the river boats, of the Roman boats on Lake Nemi in Italy. So, Clarissa, please tell us the story, and we can't wait to see the postcards. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. All right. So the title can vary. It can be the whole story, can be the boats in Lake Nemi in Italy or Caligula boats. There are all kind of names. But anyway, this is a story. So ready for the rides. So the first thing, this is what triggered me to go down to a rabbit hole to be able to find out what it's all about. I found this postcard on a show and it has like look like official people here, big pumping. And because I collect construction, I thought, oh, that's interesting. And then I turn it around and it says in Italian, the pump in function that drained a lake. Wow, that was something. Draining a lake? How you drain a lake without even pumps? And it says here that it was drained 20 million of cubic meters of water. And they specified the type of pump and everything. So this intrigued me a lot. And therefore, I decided to investigate more. But the other day, looking at this more closely, I realized there was even one more thing on this postcard that was interesting. And is this little A7, which probably is the A for anno, which means year in Italian, and 7. And so the fascist era, Mussolini decided that to restart the clock and count on fascist era starting 1922 when he was starting power. So plus 7 will be 1929. And it is exactly that period of time that we're talking about here. So that was a real find for $1. So let's situate it a little bit, all the where are we and what is going on. So Lago Nemi is a little lake here, circle, about 30 miles, 19 miles or 30 kilometers from south of Rome. It's a volcanic lake. And if you look more closely at this lake, it has two cities or village, Nemi and Genzano. And Nemi, of course, took the name from the lake or vice versa. There was a sanctuary for the goddess of Diana in the Roman time. And there is a museum. The surface of the lake is rather small. It's only 0.64 square miles. And is a maximum depth of 108 feet or 33 meters. So what happened here? First thing, let's try to explore what happened around the lake. So the Temple of Diana, this is all is left. I found picture. By the way, anything that is framed in red, they are picture from the internet. They're not postcards. If it's not framed in red, they are postcard from my collection. So this is the plan of what is supposed to be. And Diana was a patroness of the countryside, of nature, hunter, childbirth, crossroad. And so Nemi in Latnemus forest, woods, and that's where she was called Diana Memorensi. Around 300 BC, that's when the temple was in use. So it was a very important place. And this is a rendition in 1840 of the ruin of the temple, the lake, and some people. And as you can see, the the temple is pretty close to the edge of the lake. And remember that, because that's a very important reason why something happened later on. So the two towns, one is Nemi. Nemi was created in the 19th century by some counts, and it has a castle and the tower. And then Genzano was created in 1255 by the Cistercian monks. So these are the two little towns which are perched on top of the hill near the lake. And this is another representation. So what happened, like Lake Nemi was considered very fashionable to go there in the 17th, 18th century. And therefore there is a lot of painting that you can find about the Lake Nemi. And this is one other representation, is a postcard by Karl Rothman, which is a German landscape painter. And another one where you can see the two major churches that are still there, and then the famous tower. And then you can see monks going around here. So that's a pretty interesting postcard as well. This is what it looks like today. So it hasn't changed much. There's still the tower. And of course, this is a photo. This is a postcard where the tower is missing because it's probably around here, the tower. You can see the church, and Genzano is probably on the other side. So now, why this lake was so interesting? Because of the boats. So what happened? There was Caligula, Emperor Caligula. He built two big boats, and you will see they were pretty large, on this lake. One for his pleasure. It was a floating palace that has marbles, mosaics, nice floors, heating, plumbing, all kind of amenities that are thought to have been technologically available only way later. But actually they were already in use at that time. And the other one was a floating temple of worship of Diana. So this is one of the representation, is on a postcard, a representation of what one of the boats can look like. So history of these boats. So as I said, Caligula built them, but he was murdered. And Claudius, the Emperor Claudius, who succeeded them, sank the ships and tried to erase all traces of Caligula. He even hiding all the statues and everything. He really didn't like Caligula at all, and want to erase everything that was about him. So nobody knew about the boats anymore. Local fishermen suspected there was something under the water because their nets were getting caught regularly and catching into something that was not just rocks at the bottom of the lake. But it would have to wait on 1446 when Cardinal Prospero Colonna, who was the owner of the area at the time, ordered Battista Alberti to attempt with rope to retrieve the boats. He failed and damaged the boats, of course, on the process. In 1535, so almost a century later, Francesco de Marque and Guillaume de Lorraine dived to remove small artifacts. And that's how they dived. This is from a book. As you can see, they have a very rudimentary, caps to keep some air for the poor diver. And they went underneath, they found the boats, and then they tried to retrieve all kind of artifacts that were then sold to collectors. Almost 3 centuries later, Anesio Visconti decided to try again, and he used a platform with cable. The cable were so weak that they broke, but recovered again more artifacts. This is one a book, the kind of platform that was used. And this is from a report that was written way later by Malfatti, but he reconstructed what the platform should look like at the time. Pretty rudimentary to try to retrieve a whole boat. In 1895, there was a systematic study by Eliseo Borghe and discovered that there were actually 2 ships, it's not only one. And he made a lot of dives and search, and then retrieved a lot of artifacts that were partially in the museum. Some are still visible today. And also, unfortunately, retrieved a lot of woods from the boats and just let to rot on the side of the shore. And there is a postcard is soon on the way to myself, thank you to a friend in England, that has from the Malfatti report. It was extensive report in 1896, with has these pictures of, and a postcard was made. And this woods was lost, and it was used for carving souvenirs for tourists. Only solution then on this report by Alicio Borghi was the only solution to recover the ship was to drain the lake. What? So in 1895, they said, okay, never mind. We will not be able to retrieve the ships ever. Well, come 1927 and Mussolini, and he gives the order to drain the lake, to recover the boats for the glory of Italy. That was interesting. So here is a postcard again, soon to me, of Mussolini visiting the lake, and then when they opened the pumps to drain the lake on October 20, 1928. This is where Mussolini is. Now, how that all happened, not easy. So the first thing, let's resituate it. Where are we? This is a lake of Nemi on a that you can see with the museum here. Genzano is here and Nemi is here. So the two boats are here. The two boats are here, and this is a lake with the contour lines. So as you can see, it had to be drained all the way to at least this line here, if not here, to be able to see the boats on dry lines. You can see here better the two boats that are the first Nave 1 and Nave 2, which Nave means boats in English. So now you want to drain a lake. Where do you put the water? This is a volcanic lake. It has no entry and no exits. The water that is there is just collected by rainfall. So there is no exit. Well, here is where the Roman saved the day. The Roman had built a channel that this is the entrance, and this is one picture of the inside, and this is where it's supposed to exit, a mile long. And the reason they built it was to allow, to make sure that the Temple of Diana will not get flooded. So if the big rains and the lake level will go up, well, the water will drain down this tunnel to another valley, and the Temple of Diana will not get flooded. Of course, this was not in such a good repair when they started in 1927, but they were able to use that and then restore it enough to be able to use this to drain the water. So here is a cutoff from a book. This is a tunnel. So this is a lake of Nemi, and this is a tunnel was going to another lake here, the Lake Aricia, that doesn't exist anymore. And here you can see the Emisario, which is Lago Nemi. It will go to the Valle Aricia. This is where exit and the water was drained. And then actually there was it was continue all the way to the sea on the Roman time. It's about 300 feet deep in the mountain. You can see here on the contour line. So this is all hills, and here is lower, and then here. Or on a Google map, 1 mile long, all the way to here. It was going under the Genzano. And this is a postcard of Genzano. You can see the sound. So the entrance of the tunnel had to be around here. I could not find a postcard that shows actually entrance of the tunnel. I'm planning to go there maybe on my first next trip to Italy to try to find out where exactly it is. So now we are Pompey. Who did it? So this is a postcard show early. This is another postcard that show the pumps. And basically Guido Uccelli, who was a director of the General Society, the Society Engineering of the Riva Mechanic Riva di Milano, decided to actually donate all the work and all the necessary pumps to drain the lake. He did that with another three groups that were from Italians. So it was not tax money that drained the lake, but it was ordered by Mussolini. So they started draining it by pumping and using the tunnel. And that's where the pumps were located, where the tunnel is going through the mountains to get to water out of the lake. So 28th of March, 1929, they finally get the first little boats coming out, and they did a postcard out of it. Took 5 months, 159 days to get to this point where they saw the top of the first boat. It took another 11 months, total 11 months, on 7th of September 1929 for the first boat to be completely out of the water. And you can see here that it's still caked in mud, and you can imagine why previous attempt was not able to get it out of the lake, because with so much mud, it was kind of impossible to lift it. So the first ship recovered was 70 meters or 230 feet long with a width of 66 feet, and it was the smaller of the two. So here you can see other view where the mud has been removed. You can see the spectator because there was a lot of people coming to see this boat. Another close view. This one still has some mud in it, where you can see people trying to clean it from the top. And here you can see the scale. Look how many people are around this boat to see this first boat. Here, okay, they had to be, once it out of the water and out of the mud, they put scaffolding to try to hold it, and they use wood rolls to move it away from the edge of the lake. Because don't forget, as soon as the pump are stopping pumping, the lake will refill slowly, but it will refill with the rain. So they had to move it away from the edge of the water on high grounds. And here is the beginning of building some kind of a shelter. And you can see here under the shelter with the scaffolding holding it and to protect it. So this is what it's supposed to be looking like. Maybe nobody actually really know, but this is a rendition of some expert in boats that says how these boats look like. Now the second boat. The second boat emerged on January 1930, so about a year later, and it took almost 16 months or 460 days to get it. It was completely out of the water on end of 1932, and it took a lot more time. And the reason they were a 10 months interruption in the middle, because they had difficulty to get the water out and the pumps working, and they had to, for safety reasons, so they interrupted for over 10 months, and then they restarted eventually in 31, and then maybe able to get it all completely out. The second boat is slightly larger. It's 73 meter long and a beam of 24 meter wide. So in conclusion, it took 2 years and 8 months to drain the lake, and a drop of 20 meter or 66 feet with 40 million some cubic meter of water that were drained. That's incredible. And this is more view of the second boat that was, you see larger. You can see the scale by these little people here. Another view of this boat. And this is what assumed it was look like. And as you can see, there was something that was pointed to me on one of the reading I had, that the oars were outside the boat. So to maximize the space for partying, and then the moving of the boats was outside. Obviously, all these boats did not have to deal with major storms or anything because they were on such a small lake to move around. look, some of the columns are being recovered, and they are in the museum. So this is what it looks like, with a scaffolding to hold it up, and then this stair to be able to walk on top of it. And why this is important? Because, of course, dignitary will come to visit. So this is one of two postcards that I have about a visit of the Principi di Piemonte, which are basically, it's the son of and his wife of King of Italy. And here they blew up the two persons. So this is Umberto II di Savoia, who was born in 1904 and 1983, but he was king for 34 days when his father abdicated in his favor, and then ended when Italy referendum decided that they want to be a republic and not a kingdom. So he was banned from Italy to ever come back again, him and all his male heir. And this one is his wife that he had basically just married in 1930, Maria Jose del Belgio, from Belgium. And here they are again, and I don't know who the other peoples are, unfortunately. I tried to ask my friends in Italy, but there was no, they don't know. So now, what happened to the boats? The two boats were in covered very to preserve them. Don't forget, wood that you take out of the water will actually not last very long. It will completely disintegrate. So it was saturated with a solution of pine tar, linseed oil, and turpentine, so that it will be completely saturated with that mixture to be able to preserve the wood. So the two boats, and here I couldn't find a postcard. One was on a shelter, some kind of tents that was built around it, and the other one was completely encased in some kind of protection to preserve them. Now, you can't leave the boats like this forever, because that will have been, nobody can see them. It's not really interesting. So you need to build a museum. So Vittorio Baglio Mopurgo, who was a very known architect in Italy at the time, decided to donate his time and money to design the building. So this is how the building was during construction. And the two facades here were not built until the boats were in. So that was a very clever way to, instead of building around the boats, but they built the structure and then they closed it once the boats were in. So the construction started in 1934, about 2 years after the full recovery of the boats. The first boat was able to enter in 1935, and the second one on January 36. And then, of course, there was, so this is what the museum would look like once the boats were inside and closed. And they still look like this today. So then in 1940, they were inauguration, and you can see the size of the boats and how they were held by scaffolding, metal scaffolding to be seen. One other thing you can notice is that there is a balcony here, so that it was designed so that you can go on the balcony and see inside the boats. So this is some of the artifact, all on postcard. There is many postcards on dealing with all the different artifacts that were recovered in bronze. And the anchor, one of the anchor was recovered, and the anchor was always shown in the mud. I'm not sure why nobody made that postcard once it was out of the mud and in the museum maybe, and it is in the museum now, but it was in the mud. And these are the two postcards on the boats in the museum. And you can, again, see the balcony here where the people can come and then see the boats from the top, not just from the bottom. So pretty impressive. Now, what happened next? So there was a very night, May 31st to June 1st. So let me remind you what happened that night. First thing, you need to remember Operation Shingo that started on January 22nd, 1944, by the Allies, the USA Army, that was concluded on June 4th, 1944, with Rome liberation. So the Allies came from down south all the way to Rome to get Italy liberated from the Germans. Remember that Lake Nemi was on the south of Italy, so they had to go through or close by that area to get to Rome. The German patrol was stationed near the museum, about 100 meters, 150 meters, 164 yards from the museum, stationed there. So, of course, the Allies tried to bomb them on the May 31st on the evening. And even the previous day, there were some bombing to the German patrol. And at the end of the night, on June 1st, this is what's left of the boats. It was completely burned down. Only the scaffolding were left. And you can see damage on the museum as well, on the walls, by the intense fire. Don't forget the boats were saturated with very flammable material to keep the wood from deteriorate. And thus it was even easier and the flame were really bad. So there was a report, of course, an inquiry. What happened? On the report was the inquiry was from July 12 and 21st of 1944, and by Salvatore Aurigema, who is the head of the Lazio Antiquity at the time. Lazio is the area near Rome, the region near Rome, where Rome is and where Lago Nemi is as well. His conclusion was the German troops did it. The proof, they were the only one there. And also they did it for revenge because they didn't like the Italians. And they also removed, they asked all the custodians, and normally the custodians were living in the museum, especially during the war. And they removed and told the custodian that they have to evacuate the museum. And so that's it. They removed the custodian to cover up. And they did not try to extinguish it, although the museum did have a system for fire extinguishing. So that, what else do we need? They did it. Well, in 2023, Flavio Altamura and Stefano Paolucci wrote a book, L'incendio delle navi di Nemi. And he said, no, that was not the German who did it. The Allied bombs accidentally did it. And they have proof there were holes on the ceiling. Incendiary bomb did fall on the roof of the museum. And they used modern signs, fire signs, to show how the fire propagated from those incendiary bombs to match all the testimony that was collected at the time. And here is one sketch of the museum. So these were the two boats. And here are the 4 incendiary bombs that penetrated the ceiling of the museum and up on the ship. So it took a little while to start the fire. So there was a report of little lights inside the museum with torches outside the museum. That's why people said the German went there with torches to do it. But it was incendiary bomb that smoldered a little bit and then eventually set fire to the 2 boats. So this is what we have now, again, from a postcard. So the museum is still there. It has been, of course, cleaned up. And then we have the 2 boats that were reproduced at the 5th of the scale that they once were. So for finished is funny things I found. 2 postcards, number 1 and 2. Tell the whole story of the boats. At the end, they say many attempts have been done in past to explore and bring the boat up to the surface, but never anything was accomplished. And good part of the boats were destroyed in those attempts. But that's not the whole story. So I wonder if there is a 3rd postcard with the end of the story, with a recovery in 1930, because the postcard are postcard from that era. So it's not written before, they were written when the boats were in recovery. So there must be a 3rd postcard that tell the rest. That will be really lucky if I can find it. So this basically concludes my talk. So there were a lot of references that look, and the books that I strongly recommend, unfortunately, is only in Italian, is this book by Flavio Altamura and Stefano Paolucci, who now basically everybody agree with them on changing their stories, not the German. It was unfortunate casualty of war. I wrote one article from the San Jose Postcard Club in November, if anybody is interested. And I think that's about it. So now I can answer your questions.
Thank you, Clarissa.
Yeah, the second boat was the bigger one was the one for the pleasure of Caligula. That's correct.
Clarissa, did a lot of the artifacts from the ships survive, or were they destroyed as well, that had been taken off?
Some of the artifacts that were in the museum did survive, and the reason they survived, it was because they were taken to Rome before the war to protect them, and so they were eventually returned to the museum later on after the war. So yes, they did survive because they were not in the museum.
So there's still something to see there then when you go.
Yeah, there is supposed to something to see. There is a library, no library, library as well. But as I said, anytime I looked into the museum, is always closed. Because obviously is not very, there is so much to see in Italy. Why will you go to see something that doesn't exist anymore?
Correct. Correct.
One question I have, what is the level of the lake today? Is a natural level, and the tunnel by the Roman that was refurbished by the fascists still works. So the level of the lake is what is supposed to be, is refilled by the rain little by little, and is there. Yes, Marina?
Okay. Just to complete your perfect work, because you were very precise and very complete in telling everything.
Thank you.
From the beginning of the story, then continuously up to the end. That was a tragic end, as we saw. But now, just to give a little hope, just to have an idea what it was, what they were really, these two ships. I listened from the TV that two engineers were trying to organize capitals to rebuild with of course, with all the technical we have today, these two ships and recolocate into the museum, just to give the possibility to tourists and everyone is interested in to go and see what they were exactly. But for the moment, they are just trying to harvest money for. So let's hope that waiting some years, maybe we will be able to see again something in that museum.
Well, let's hope. Before I go, let's do it fast.
I don't know, but this is just an idea that they have.
Yeah. How long did it take me to gather this postcard? I don't know. It was probably the first one was York a couple years ago, so a couple years. It took me to collect this postcard, and I'm still searching more. And if I was able to get to Del Camp more easily, there will be more to find.
Clarissa, you may explain. I think some of our audience would know about Del Camp, but explain what
Del Camp is the European equivalence of eBay. So in Europe, they have a Del Camp instead of, well, they have eBay too, but Del Camp is one specifically for Europe. And they decided about a year or so ago, or 2 years ago, that anybody who lives in the United States, in certain states, not all United States, they are not allowed to do that because there is too complicated tax system for sales taxes. And so they banned them, including Maryland, unfortunately, but not California. Who knows? Were there any references to these boats in Roman literature, especially as Caligula was known to follow Egyptian god Isis? I don't know. That's I will not be able to answer.
Clarissa, it's Ashley. I don't have a question. I just want to commend you for your being curious enough to, look into that postcard that you picked up because of your, the field and your job and your interest in construction, and what a path it took you on. And now you shared it with so many of us. It's just amazing, and you did do a great job on the research. And I just think it's a fascinating story with a tragic end. But
Yes.
so,
And I
so
was lucky because the book that I read in Italian was actually flagged by a friend, another person. I talked about these things, and he said, there is a new book come out, and he doesn't read Italian, but somehow it was mentioned in some kind of show somewhere.
that is
It
amazing.
was it's a collective effort. So now, if anybody of you finds anything about Nemi boats, let me know. I may be interested to buy the postcard.
Sure.
Cool.
Marina?
I can tell you another thing. Why Caligula chose at that time to build up some wood ships in that place. Just because even at that time, the Roman time, I mean, all the zone, all the mountains and the hills all around were full of woods made of fantastic, beautiful trees, very high, very tall,
Oh.
very
Mhm.
okay, and with made of very good wood, very compact. So he decided to build in Nemis for that reason. It was very important.
Yeah.
Very
Because nearby you have also Lago di Castel Gandolfo that is biggest. So it should have been better to show two very big ships in a biggest lake. But in that situation, the woods were with a few trees. So it was not good to build.
Yes.
So that's why he decided Nemi and not another place, even if there were other lakes, even more beautiful.
Thank you. That's interesting. They have the material to build the boats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to say. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, we sure do. Thank you, Clarissa. This is such an interesting topic, and I'm amazed that you're able to find these postcards, and I hope that you continue to find even some more. And that one postcard you started out with that had the Roman numerals 7 makes me think there might be at least 6 more.
No, number 7 was a year.
Okay.
It was a year of 1929 in fascist era, so it has nothing to do with the number of postcards.
Okay. I can be hopeful.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But there are more.
There is a
more.
table to show.
Yeah,
there is the
more.
table.
Plus I have more even in my album. I didn't show them all of them.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Good.
For the
Good.
time.
So, but yeah, but it will be boring if I show. If you are close to me or local, I can bring the album and show them. But or if
Sure.
you visit Maryland anytime, I'll show you. But showing them every single one will have been pretty boring.
Understand. Well,
But I'm still looking for more because there are more that will be interesting to have. But
sure.
we'll see.
Sure. Well, it's great. Just a historical topic. Imagine a ship made by Caligula as a pleasure palace, and then to think that we're even talking about it all these hundreds of years later. It's just terrific.
Yeah, the last question, another question is, does Marina lives near the Lake Nemi? Relatively, yes. She's in Rome, so she lives 30 kilometers out of it. So when I go
Yeah.
visit her next time, I'll definitely we'll go make an excursion to the lake and
Yes.
hopefully find a way to get the museum open.
That would be
Yes.
great. Be wonderful.
Yeah.
And for people that came late today, this is Clarissa's cousin, the lady who's been speaking with the pretty dress black and the polka dots on it. And we're just so glad to have you here today, cousin.
Thank
And
you.
it's been
Thank you
fun
very
to
much.
have that.
So,
You bet.
Alan, do you want to ask a question? Alan M.
Yeah, I was going to ask your cousin, the very fact that these fantastic boats got destroyed by Allied bombing, do the tourists that go to Rome go to Portus and Ostia, which is like the famous Roman ports outside, Rome, then go to the lake now? Is it a case that tourists just don't go there because there's nothing really to see there as much?
I don't think it's very well known nowadays because there is no boats to be seen, and there is so much things that you can see in Italy. And going to Ostia and go to Rome is still like a triangle. You go to Ostia one way west, and then you have to go south of Rome to get back to those. And there is nothing to see. The lake is pretty, I've been told, and the museum is closed. So why bother?
Yeah, sure.
Marina?
There is another little thing that I want to say just for comprehension of Caligula. Don't forget that Caligula was a little mad, was the Roman man that nominated senator his horse. So if you think of that, that was at the end of his life, it's incredible, it's impressive to think that when he was young, he decided to make these two ships that were very, very difficult to be built at that time, and for good reasons, just to enjoy itself, because Romans loved to enjoy, and because of the La Divinità, I don't know how to say.
The goddess Diana that was worshipped there.
Yes, yes.
I can.
But at the end of his life, he was completely mad. He was just to nominate senator his horse. So
And I'll
we
show you
were lucky.
I'll show you the map. This is Rome. This is Ostia, Antique Ostia,
Correct.
or the Ostia for going to the beach. And here is Lake Nemi.
Yeah.
So if you go to Ostia, going to Lake Nemi is like, okay, what's the purpose? Unless you want to go to the Castelli, there's a park here, but that's.
Well, it's a terrific story and just neat to hear about it. And thank you for presenting it so well today, Clarissa.
Oh, thank you.